All the content contained in this webcast is for informational purposes only. The investments and strategies contained in this webcast may not be suitable for you. Please consult your own independent financial advisor before making any investment or trading decisions. Welcome back, folks. This is our mid-morning update. We're going to try and follow through on some of the stuff we did on the morning show and see how really right or really wrong we were.
Well, one thing we got right, Joel, was Pfizer. Man, this thing is off to the races. This is the biggest move I've seen the stock have in months. We were saying, it could have a 2-day nice move here with the breakout day yesterday. It opened at the low, didn't even think about pulling back whatsoever. The stock is off to the races, up over 50 cents, which is a monstrous move for Pfizer. The entire drug sector is really actually pretty strong today, but what do you think of Pfizer overall here, Joel?
I think Pfizer's taking its own dose of Viagra here.
Oh,
it's going,
it really is.
It's going straight up, man.
It's pretty excited anyways.
Anyways, it's hard when you get a stock like this that makes a move in a down to mix market, but that's what you have to do is you train yourself as a trader. When a situation comes up like this where, it busted out yesterday, and boom, turns around. You just have to put your mindset that, hey, this is the way I'm trading this stock today. And I'm looking at it, Dennis. Believe it or not, 23.79 is what I'm looking for this thing to do.
23.79. Come on, Joel, you got better resistance than that.
All right, Dennis. How about 23?
Yeah, that's how I do. I like the whole numbers. It works, 20... Joel. Keep it simple.
Okay.
No, you know what? You know what, Joel? I'm going back. This thing is off to the races, so I don't want to be short this thing whatsoever. I'm still a buyer of pullbacks here. I'm not even going to try to, pick a top on this thing because this thing is moving today.
Before you would have said 22.75, then 23, and then 23 and a quarter, then 23.
Yeah. You're funny, Joel.
The only thing I'm looking at is now we just got to go back to 06, Dennis. February of 06, this thing traded up to 23.40.
Well, that could be a longer.
Until we close back down below 22.17, the old bogey, the old 52-week high. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, the stock is off to the races. You definitely don't want to be short this thing. It has consolidated for a long, long time in this 21 to 22 area, and it is starting to move here. So, wow, nice day for Pfizer shareholders. Your entire drug sector is strong here in the morning, Joel. I know the market's down just a couple bucks, but the drugs are off to the races. Abbott Labs is another one that's starting to take off here, making new 52-week highs here as well. There was a huge seller at 61 there right on the open. They took him out and never looked back. Stock has been moving up ever since, up 40 cents, which is a decent move for Abbott Labs as well. Had some nice consolidation between 60 and 61 for 4 or 5 days there, and then now it's just breaking out here as well. What do you think, Abbott?
The only thing I can really say about Abbott in dichotomy to the Pfizer is that this thing is making all-time highs.
Yeah, it is.
And that's a different scenario. I mean, it's not a tech stock or anything, but it's running here. It took out the former all-time high, from earlier in the month, and it's just been going. So, to be conservative, 89 or 60.98 or something like that, and if it falls back below the $61 level, you're protected. If use the the average daily ranges for projections on this if you absolutely have to sell a stock that's going straight up.
I mean, Merck, Lilly, Johnson & Johnson, they're all up on the day here. Not quite as much as Pfizer. Pfizer's really the leader here. But all the entire drug sector, it's like a risk. I don't know. It's just a risk on day for the drugs, I guess. So a risk off for everything else. Well, risk on, they say, moving out of some of your other cyclicals and moving into the drugs, man. The drugs are hot today, Joel. Any other drugs you want to touch on here?
Well, I just no, I'm not on any drugs today. But just before we move on, Dennis, I know we talk a lot about the HFT crowd and what they do and what they don't do, and we've been focusing on the 65.50 level in Johnson & Johnson. Is that still play there, or did the did the seller, move up to 66?
I don't see anything there at 65.50, but man, there was some size there. I wonder if it's hidden there. It's interesting that it topped out right at 65.49, so maybe your high frequency guys sniffed him out and they're selling in front of him. I mean, if it gets above the 65.50, we know there's huge institutional selling pressure up there at the 66 area. So if it's to break out through the 65.50, the high frequency guys will definitely be selling in the 65.90s. But it looks like you're right, Joel. Maybe it did top out right below that 65.50. Maybe there is some hidden institutional selling there that those high frequency guys are sniffing out. But it is strong today, Joel.
Or the institutional guys are listening to premarketinfo.com and our shows, and they're not putting the orders out there.
Well, that could be the case too, I guess. But the high frequency guys love to sniff those guys out. So, that's what they do. They find those institutional sellers, whether they're hidden or whether they're lit. And then, what we normally see on the chart is often the high frequency resistance, because those institutional offers often don't trade because of those high frequency guys. Moving right along here, your home builders we talked about in the morning show. Lennar did indeed make a new high to opened up into a new high at 27.20. Been moving up since. It hung out at 27.50, got as high as 27.60. Has peeled back a bit, Joel. What do you say for our listeners now?
Mid-range here, I think it's a really tough call. I mean, the range could be in for the day. I would, use the parameters the market's provided for some day, already so far in the day, and kind of trade around that. A breakout above, 27.63, and you probably don't want to be short this thing anymore. And if it breaks down below 27.05, you got the gap to fill at 26.40.
How's that Apple short working out there for you, Joel? You were joking, putting on a RIM long Apple short spread. You know what? Early on in the morning, the RIM was actually doing pretty well. It opened up 13.96, almost at the low, made a low at 13.91, and then ran 14.26. Has pulled back a bit, 14.10. So RIM is up a bit, but Apple is off to the races once again. Opens near the low, 606.43, goes down 40 cents to 606.06, and then just rallies, makes a new all-time high again. It's up another $7. This thing is just rocking and rolling. How do you stop it? I don't know. I don't want to get in the way of this freight train. It just continues to move higher. What do you think of Apple now, Joel?
I guess the only thing, too bad it's a $600 stock that trades with a 25-point spread and, moves $2. It's just technically, you can see these didn't get much below the close, 606.98. It got $1 below that. But, of course, if you would have bought it there, you would have thought, when it goes straight down $1 that you're dead. But it broke out above the 607.15, If I would have been long it there, I probably would have gotten out at 609.65 and tried a short. So, just look at the numbers, try and give yourself $1 or $2, range. It had a quiet couple days, Dennis. It really, every time this thing has a quiet, range for a day or two, the third day it usually busts out, and that's what it did. So, there's nothing to say except 614.75 is the all-time high.
Yeah. WAG, W-A-G, which is Walgreens. We talked about this 35 to 35.50. If it took out the 35, we thought the 35.50 area didn't quite get there. Opened at 35.32, which was almost the high, 35.34, and has peeled straight back, which is what you were kind of saying it might do. 34.90 is where it's trading right now, Joel. Obviously looking a little bit weaker after opening pretty strong there.
Yeah, when you have a thick stock like this and you get that kind of move in the overnight session, it's just almost impossible for it to sustain itself unless it, doubles earnings or something like that. I mean, a stock like Walgreens, I'm not sure if they're opening up a lot more store. They're pretty much set in what their profit pattern is going to be, and until they come up with some new business model or some way to someone wants to buy them out, I mean, here's a stock that, well, I'm not sure what the dividend is on it, but yeah, it's just not a stock you're going to get a lot of capital appreciation in.
2.58% is what the current dividend yield is on that one, Joel. I mean, we we were just talking the consolidation there in our first show, and it's right at the top end of that range. That's where it opened right into that resistance. We always talk about setups. That was kind of a good setup where it's opening right into that whole resistance area and basically peeled back 50 cents. So if you're able to play that open, good job. Worked out. CVS, we talked about that one opening into resistance as well. Hasn't peeled back as much. It's opened and it's kind of hanging out there. You almost wonder if that eventually could get stuck in a tractor beam type of play with the 46 handle being the major institutional resistance. But since holding so far, kind of muted trading action. Anything you got to say on CVS?
No, no. I mean, I just to take a look at the overall market here, pretty tight range during the day session, Dennis. A little bit less than a 3-point range. Haven't been able to get anywhere near the Globex high. Haven't been able to get anywhere near the settlement. Just looks like you get a little bit of profit taking coming in. I don't see any support in this market down to that 1408 level, Dennis, and it looks like it's just kind of moseying on area. So let's keep an eye on that 1408 area.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a quiet day. The high frequency vice grip is definitely on here, where they've got a hold of this market and they're just scalping for their pennies now, and the market probably does a heck of a lot of nothing for the next few hours. But
I'd just like to add real quickly on just a brief update here on the gold and the silver markets.
Okay.
I mean, it did make a new high from yesterday, and that's been ahead of the silver market here over the last couple days. It did make a new high, but now it is peeled back below that level. So I think unless it can muster a rally soon and it breaks below 164, I think you're looking for a pretty good sell-off here in gold. And silver, who lagged on the rally, did make a new high over yesterday's high, but it's really running into major trouble here in the low 32, 32.18, 32.14. So I mean, these things have had a couple days rally. It looks like you've had a 3-day rally. I think if you're long these precious metals, folks, you might want to lighten up here.
Well, that's our show and a pre-market update for the mid-morning here. We're going to try to do this for you every day. We'll give you this mid-morning update around 10:30 and recap what's happening in the actual trading session. So thanks for listening to us today. We appreciate your feedback, and we will talk to you tomorrow.